Greetings everyone, this is Force Nature Top Tier Tips and I welcome you to my Beginner Guide series. In our last session, we looked at how punishment operates in Dead or Alive 6. In this session, I'm going to show you how to approach the neutral game. Alright, before you start anything when you go into the training mode, I basically just go over this religiously. Alright, I want you to go to the fight screen info. Turn on the display your skill info, this training mode is fine. And now training mode, this is going to be very important. Alright, in this session, the main focus is going to be on essentially I don't necessarily want to call them go-to moves, but basically the kind of moves that you will be using during neutral at different times. Alright, I'm just going to start out here from a little outside, I don't know, mid, long range, wherever, further out. Alright, for this kind of range, when you're playing, you have two things in mind. You're either going to be concerning yourself with keep out. Keep out basically means moves that just simply knock the opponent away. Moves that can be used to basically punish the opponent for trying to approach you and you just end up smacking them away or anything like that. That's if you're trying to focus around keep out. Focus around keep out would usually be if you have some sort of either two things. You have some sort of life lead over your opponent, so if you have more health than they do, then applying a type of keep out game or defensive, or I call it defensive pressure. Applying this sort of game plan would be good. You also would apply this if the opponent in general, let's say they're playing either a close range character or their own neutral game doesn't really seem that good. And if they're just simply having trouble getting in on you, then playing a keep out game is good, because every time they struggle to get in, they're going to become potentially more frustrated. They're basically going to become more patient, and you can take advantage of that. On the other hand, if you're fighting around range and you don't necessarily want to employ a defensive pressure keep out style, let's say for instance that your opponent has a life lead over you, or if you just feel like pressuring them because you feel like applying an offensive pressures tactical strategy against your opponent would be more optimal for that match, then essentially you want to be focusing on both getting in on your opponent and poking. For both keep out or get in, rush down, or anything like that, you do generally want to fight safe. The kind of pokes I kind of recommend tossing out, something like a jab, or even a PP2K or anything like that. These are fairly safe moves to toss out. A jab, for instance, has the least amount of recovery out of any move. For instance, Hitomi's jab only has 13 recovery frames. See right there? See the third number there in frame? That's recovery. 13 frames means that's an incredibly small window for the opponent to try and whiff punish that. 13 frames is less than a quarter of a second, so it's incredibly hard to punish, and the opponent needs to be on point and to make sure that they don't try and whiff punish into the two active frames, which you never want to do. If you're to do a PP, right there, that's also very fast and has 16 recovery frames. So it's Hitomi's PP only has 16 recovery frames, so that recovers pretty damn fast. And of course, most people's PP strings don't just end at PP, so Hitomi can actually have a lot of potential follow-ups. Even a string like that, for instance, would be is actually safe on an opponent's block. Hitomi's PP4, PPK, you can even do PP4, PP, and charge the last P and you get +4, so stuff like that. But the main thing if you're fighting from around kind of further out, what I recommend is simply doing something like a PP2K. If the K whiffs or if it hits, it's good. So think of it as a chip damage low. If you want to mix up with that, you can do PP6K, PP4PP. So this, again, if you just finish the strings, you could do either the punch option or the kick option. So that's another thing to look at is what kind of variation you have. So it's good to have, a high option, a high tracking option is good too. So a low option, a mid option, that's good. And of course, when you actually do close the distance and get in, then you can do good old fashioned, the 3D fighter special, punch grab or punch grab. Other stuff that you can be looking at for around range is basically for a mix-up, a good kind of low option, 1K. I like something like Hitomi's 1K is good because it has follow-ups. Stuff like 1KK, I mean, that's unsafe, but if the move does hit, then you get a bit of a stun, which is nice. If it's blocked, then yeah, you're unsafe at -10. But that's why you have 1k 6p. And it's got its own follow-ups. Alright, another thing also, yeah, is 1kp, which is a launcher, but that's also unsafe. So if you want a safe thing to do after this, just do the high punch option, even though it is a high punch. Other things also good for mix-ups, if you have like a low sweep that has good range. I'll just let you know right now, low sweeps are basically always going to be unsafe. Pretty much they're almost always going to be unsafe on block. But like Hitomis, you get plus 2 frame advantage if it hits. If it gets blocked, then the opponent has to stand and throw punish you because it's like -16 or so. So yeah, having lows is good because basically you just want your opponent to watch their ankles. Because if the opponent's only prior to our stand and block, then they're gonna keep getting chipped out by those, which is, I mean, is good. It's good for you, even if these lows are negative on normal hit. But chipping them out is always nice. Some other moves is, well, number one, you do want some good tracking moves. Like Hitomi does have a track and high with like 4 or 6k. But she also has her 6H plus K, which is a really good mid-kick. Pretty much the only weakness with this move is that it's 18 frames is kind of slow. But it's -2 on block. It has 2 delayable follow-ups. A high option that's safe and a low option that's, well, not safe, but is a low. And honestly, it's only -2 on block, so you can just do this. And then you can either choose the fuzzy guard, trying to parry, even got a high block that has a safe follow-up too. So I mean, like lots of different things you can look at, but a good tracking move like this is like great to toss out from around mid-range. And you can even kind of like bait, you can even try and bait the opponent to try and come in after this and get hit by the follow-up. So something like that is really good. If you're thinking about like get in, then just think of like what's a move that covers good distance and is like safe on block. For Hitomi, it's something like her 236K. If you're right here, if you scroll to page, the second page, you see this move reaches almost 3 meters. For a move that's, what, I think it's about 18 frames, that's really good. This goes really far. I know it blasts the opponent away when it gets hit, but if it gets blocked, then there, -5, you're safe. Like, her other keep-out options are a little unsafe at -9. Like 236p or 46p, so yeah, so if you have something safe, like her 3H plus K is okay. At -7, if you do it like right in an opponent's face, they can throw punish you. But if you can somehow manage to get like tip range with it, then you can actually make it less negative, like -6. And if you can get the absolute furthest away, you can get it to -5, which is really difficult to do. But like at -7, -6, if the opponent's not if they're not on point with their low throw, then you could kind of get away with that move. Like I know for a 5-frame low throw is not breakable, but like I said, even then, like -6 lows don't usually get punished that much. I mean, just simply because the window to do so is small. I mean, this move has something like Hitomi's 3HSK has 3 active frames, and I know Hanukkah has a move that's similar to that, and it's a fast move at 22 frames. It has 25 recovery frames, so you can even do it kind of as kind of a pseudo space and footsie type tool. So I mean, like, yeah. So in general, look for moves that have like good recovery, preferably are relatively safe on block. Like moves that are like -7 or less, generally you can't really get, unless you're fighting a grappler character with 6-frame punish throws, you're generally not going to get punished really for -7, because if the opponent tries to go for a forward throw or anything, then you can just punch them in their face to do that, or just do like a 2p. So yeah, I mean, like, I'll just let you know, with regards to neutral, I mean, every character is usually somewhat different, even though certain tools like 3Ks tend to be fairly like similar, or just doing jab. But yeah, for every character, there's usually maybe like a different approach to like how they play them. Like even like, let's say for instance someone like Ayane, like you could do PPs with her, but with Ayane, just doing a single P, for instance, is like really good. Like her 3K is really good. She also has like a low poke, like 3-3P, which has a delayable follow-up. Right there, that's like good. She has like various like mid kicks that are good for keep out and stuff like that. So yeah, so I mean, every character can be different, but that's the general thing to keep in mind, is those quick recovery, fairly safe on block, can't be easily punished, is usually pretty safe to toss out. And also if you have like a good like get in move, Something like Hitomi 66K is also good because it has numerous follow-ups. And same with Ayane too. Alright, so let's say that you've closed the distance now on the opponent. So now I'm going to kind of show you the kind of neutral game revolving around that. Alright, if you're playing a character that has a stand-in reset throw, such as like Hitomi for instance, and other characters such as like Zack for instance also like has a really good one. When you're getting close, your entire game plan is basically going to revolve around trying to hit the opponent with this throw. What you want to do is get the opponent to get sick of getting hit by this throw, and then they're going to open themselves up to be getting hit by like other moves, like basically like moves that can end up like stunning them like pretty easily or stuff like that. But of course, I mean, the opponents generally are not going to let you throw them very easily. So in general, in close range, and this is also the same thing if you don't have a stand-in reset throw. I mean, if your throw game is based around just doing damage and resetting then off the ground, then that's generally not really good because it could be a little hard to pressure on the ground in Dead or Alive 6. So it's kind of weird. You want to leave your opponent stand-in on most instances. Alright, so the kind of attacks you're going to be based around is, let's say, your best high is your jab, your best mid is your elbow, or your knee, so your 6P or 6K, and your best low is your 2P. Alright, so other than, let's say, for instance, using your 2P for low pressure, because 2P honestly doesn't really do much pressure, but it's a really safe poke to toss out. But when you know you have the opponent under defensive and you can run a mix-up on them, you use your stronger low. It's almost always 2H plus K for most characters. I know for Kasumi it's like her 1K, but same with like Ayane, it's her 2H plus K. So this right here is your frame advantage low. I already said earlier these type of moves are unsafe on block, but you do these moves when the opponents are basically expecting you to do some sort of standard move. The stuff I showed you earlier, like your PP string, so PP 2K, PP 6K, in close range these moves fully apply. And even 6K has like multiple follow-ups too. And then I showed you also you have multiple 2Ks, so that's also good. Your elbow also is generally not just an elbow. It has follow-ups. Like usual multiple stuff that you can do after it. So yeah, so there's usually most things, even though if this, I'm usually just saying just do like 6BK or 6BP is okay, but like 6BKK, 6KK is like the same kind of idea. So essentially, I mean, look for kind of like safe pokes you can like do in close. So I mean, like with Hitomi, you have a lot of variation from like jab, 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 and of course, when in doubt, when you have the opponent on the defensive sneaking the throw, if the opponent's expecting the throw, then you can like jab, elbow. Like this is right here is a very VF thing to do: jab, then elbow, or jab, or 2P or something like that, or like 6P, 2P. So I mean, just working those kind of like close pokes, and that's also. It's also pretty decent to do that in DOA also. It's not as abusive in VF, because in DOA you make up for it by tend to having a lot of delayability in comparison, but it's still pretty good to also like do that kind of stuff in DOA also. Keep in mind also have a good, if your character has a good tracking low, like a 1P, like Hitomi, well Hitomi's 1P, or like Ayane's 1P, these are really good high crush moves, because you can't sidestep them. They beat highs out all the time because they're an instant high crush. They basically just lose to a faster low, which is basically just going to be a 2P for most characters unless you have a 14 frame low kick, or of course an elbow, or if you have a fast enough knee or 3K or anything like that. So like 2P, 1P, that kind of stuff is okay. I mean, don't let the negative frames like worry you. Like you can't be punished or anything, but if the opponent is really on point and they know it hit on normal hit, they may try and elbow you. So you may try it in a bar either with like a sidestep attack or a PP if you think they're gonna like elbow and stuff like that. So like generally, like I mean, I go over a lot of this kind of stuff in like other guides, my other advanced guides about like different kind of like frame. I'm gonna call it frame management, like how to manage like -4 and stuff like that. Because generally for -4 and I guess higher, like -3, -2, it's not really that bad. All it means is that it's kind of a mind game on both sides. That is, it's slightly in the opponent's favor. Like especially if your 1P does not have a follow-up. If your 1P has a follow-up, then the mind game's in your favor. But yeah, controlling frames, it's the same thing as when you're at range. I mean, try and do stuff that's like negative. When you're in close range, you're actually trying to fish for like a stun. Like this thing right here. Like this is a counter hit stun. Your elbow, your 6P is your best move for doing that. Your 6K is okay and they stun on normal hit also, but your 6P usually gives you a stun that's good enough for like some sort of launcher. Alright guys, that's it for now. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact me on my YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. So that means leaving a very lovely comment down below. You can also contact Force Nature on freestepdodge.com. And be sure to check out my other guides, both beginners and advanced, in my character guides, so all this stuff kind of comes together a bit more. And if you'd like to support the channel, feel free to join Top Tier Fighters. The support does help and I do appreciate it. Anyways, this is Force Nature sign off. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Top Tier Tips.